I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about friends. Today on the show, we are diving into a pair of new releases about unlikely friendships. The Disney live-action remake Lilo and Stitch, and the Tim Robinson comedy Friendship. These may not seem like a natural pairing, but we will illuminate the ways in which they are perfectly matched. We'll also share our favorite movie friendships, which is something I think we may have done a version of some years ago, but we're bringing it back in a slightly different register. But first, let's talk about Cannes. We talked about it last Friday. We hadn't seen any of the films. We did not attend.
Right. Still haven't seen any of the films.
I've seen a couple of trailers. I've seen some still photos.
Okay.
We do have prizes. They gave out the prizes over the Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to run through them very quickly for you. Just jump out and say, hey, this caught my eye, or I'm intrigued by this, okay? Here we go, Amanda. The Palme d'Or, it was a simple accident by Jafar Panahi.
Neon extends its record to 6 straight Palme d'Ors.
Yes. They do. Can I throw a little cold water on that?
Yeah.
They acquired the rights to the film.
Sure.
They
right.
didn't pay for the movie.
Yeah,
they didn't
that's fine.
identify
Right.
Jafar Panahi, after No Bears and say, we want to fund your next film.
Right. No, but
due respect to them, they do a lot of great work and they distribute a lot of great movies.
I meant more that they are clearly able to read the Cannes jury and tea leaves in a way that no one else can.
Yes, I think
because this is the one they acquired.
the real heads knew that Juliette Binoche, who was the president of the jury this year, was a longtime supporter of Panahi.
Yeah.
And that in all likelihood, she was going to throw her weight behind the film in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And she did. And it won the Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see this film. I actually have started a setup, like how am I going to go through all the Panahi films I've seen, the ones I haven't seen through the years. This is a movie that we'll probably be talking about over the next 12 months. I'm very excited to see it. The Grand Prix went to Sentimental Value.
Yes.
Joachim Trier's new movie.
Very excited to see this film.
Me too. We don't have to say too much more about that. The jury prizes went to Sirat, which is a Spanish film directed by Oliver Lax. There is a trailer for this movie that I watched. It looks awesome. That's all I'm going to say. It's about a father trying to find his daughter in the midst of like an EDM Burning Man situation in the middle of the desert.
All right.
Looks sick.
How old is the daughter?
I would guess 20s.
As soon as you started talking, I imagined you trying to find Alice, and at EDM at Burning Man. And I was like, well, kind of your fault for taking her.
It's a very fair point. I'm not sure how well Alice would do at Burning Man, but we
Me
can find
either,
that out
Alice.
soon. Yeah, it's not really her style. Sound of Falling, also a jury prize winner. And then Best Director went to Kleber Mendoza Filho for The Secret Agent, the new Wagner Moura movie. Actually, The Secret Agent won 2 films, or won 2 prizes because Wagner Moura also won Best Director. Kind of unusual at Cannes. You don't usually see a film get multiple prizes. They try to usually spread it around. Neon also has this movie. They have every movie here that movie doesn't have, except for a couple. Additional awards, we mentioned Nadia Malidi from The Little Sister. She won Best Actress. And Best Screenplay went to The Dardennes for Young Mothers. And there was a special award for Resurrection by Bigan, a Chinese filmmaker, and his film just got picked up by Janus. So that's going to find its way into movie theaters probably at the end of this year. I would guess you'll see that movie at the New York Film Festival along with me. That's usually what happens when they pick up titles like this. And then the other big news out of this was that Netflix has acquired a film. They picked up Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater movie. This is the 3rd consecutive movie that Netflix has picked up from Linklater.
After Hitman and
Apollo 10.5.
Sure.
The animated film that you didn't see. And this is interesting because the film is obviously a love letter to the cinema, as it's about the making of Godard's Breathless, and it will play on Netflix.
Well, as Linklater said after they acquired Hitman, it's like they had the money. They wanted to buy it. And if other people are not throwing the money around, I mean, this is, as you noted, it's Netflix and Janus are the only 2 non-movie, non-neon acquisitions at the whole festival. So the players are pretty defined. And if they weren't going to go for it, then at least we'll get to see it.
I'm very excited to see it, and I'm glad somebody is doing it. And I think my gut on this is that for Linklater, and maybe Linklater's investors, the most important thing is to be able to continue to make movies.
Yeah.
And by selling these movies at what one assumes is a modest profit, I'll get to make more.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have the movies than worry about what it means specifically for how it's distributed.
Can I tell you another way we could have seen this movie?
Sure.
If we had gone to Cannes. How you feeling now? The critics generally have been saying it was a pretty great year.
That's not true. They have not been saying that, but
I feel like some have.
I think there's not like the fizz bang. I think of the last couple of years. I think there's clearly like very good films There's no doubt about
Right.
that.
But like the Fizz Bang last year, once again, was Emilia Perez.
Yeah, and the Substance and Anora,
sure,
and,
but but it's like I'm saying, it does feel like that there was a sense that there's like a lot of really good films at Cannes that we did not get to see.
That's definitely true. Let's use the powers of our ignorance to project whether or not there is an Anora or the Substance in this year's slate.
Okay.
Do you see anything that gives you the makings of not even just Best Picture contender, but potential phenomenon?
Well, I want to shout out all our listeners in Brazil. It's your time again. The Secret Agent, they cannot be denied. It's
a very good point.
So and 2 awards at Cannes suggest that there something's going on there. I don't think it's the last time we'll be talking about Secret Agent. I don't think it's the last time we'll be talking about Sentimental Value, obviously for a lot of reasons. Joachim Trier, and Renata Rentsev, but also Stellan Skarsgård and Dakota Fanning. Like there is some crossover Hollywood.
Definitely.
Like there's the bridge.
I've heard a little bit of scuttlebutt that there's a very interesting potential It's Time Stellan Skarsgård situation where he's never been nominated for an Academy Award. He's appeared in, more than a dozen truly great movies in both Hollywood and in Europe. And so this would be an interesting opportunity to kind of celebrate the arc of his career.
Totally. And I do think we'll be talking about It Was a Simple Accident. I mean, that's going to be a really interesting Oscar campaign, just geopolitically. And
whether or not Panahi can even get over to the United States.
Right, or whether he wants to, honestly.
Yeah. He was greeted back in Iran this weekend like a hero, which is quite interesting because he obviously had been under house arrest for years there because of, the activities making these films. So him even campaigning a movie like that is fascinating.
But that is interesting, and I think also we'll kind of keep it in the conversation. So I don't know. That seems like a good rundown.
Some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff at the box office.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it depends on. Do you care about the box office succeeding, or do you care about having good movies? Good movies was like, meh. I'm not so sure we had the best slate of films.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to talking about this on a qualitative perspective, but we can start with quantitative.
Let's start with quantitative.
People really like going to the movies again, apparently.
They do, and they always did. And anytime we or me or anybody panics, it's always a little bit silly. You may recall that it was at this time last year when I gave a little post-Furiosa failure monologue.
Right. Yeah.
Which was, but to me,
it's an annual big picture tradition.
It is, but to me, my intention with that monologue, which maybe I misframed it somehow, but was to sort of just be like, it's going to be okay. Like, just let's keep going to see movies. And like one of the things I said, I seem to recall that I said was like, here are some new films that are coming out that we're excited about. Hey, Anora just won the Palm. Sean Baker's a great director. Like, let's continue to be excited about these things, that there's always this intersection time-wise of the movies we haven't seen yet at Cannes that build anticipation and the usually kind of blah Memorial Day weekend movies that are released.
Right.
So this weekend, we got this insane performance. Lilo and Stitch made $183 million domestically, which is almost surpassed what our individual predictions were in the box office game for the entire domestic run.
Wow.
So we both got that pretty darn wrong, but to me,
fine.
that's okay.
That's fine. Well, so what's going on with that?
I have a lot of theories.
Okay.
This movie is obviously a young millennial classic. It was released in 2002. So I was just talking with Arjuna Ramgopal, one of our pod managers here. And Arjuna said he was like 10 or 11 when the movie came out. And his wife was like 7 or 8, I think he said. And that the movie is like deeply meaningful to his wife. It's like one of her favorite movies, the original animated movie. And so when I went to go see the movie this weekend, I brought my daughter. There were kids there, but there were just a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Like couples in their 20s and 30s because they love this movie. So a lot of people showed out. It really touched in the same way that I think Inside Out 2 touched a lot of nostalgia for people who had been younger when those films were released. We've also seen this obviously with the Minions movies and Despicable Me movies where like kids who were 6 are now 20 when those films first started coming out. And they're like, I'm going to go see this movie, of course, even though it's Minions 4. And the age thing isn't an issue. They just want to be near this story. So this movie might end up becoming one of the highest grossing live action Disney movies of all time. Like in America, only 2 movies surpassed 365 million. The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. And those are all-time classics. But I think Lilo and Stitch is an all-time classic for a demo that is directly beneath us.
I do have like a less nostalgia-based theory, which is just that Memorial Day is weirdly early this year. This was also like
Mhm.
historically the biggest Memorial Day opening weekend of all
It
time.
was.
But it does feel like because it is, I think, one of the earliest it can be in the calendar, a lot of schools aren't out yet. Like a lot of people didn't travel.
Mhm.
And there was really also terrible weather throughout much of the country.
Mm.
And I do just feel like people, instead of using their holiday weekend to go on a trip, we're just like, well, I guess we're at home and we're going to the movies.
I
And
think
I
that's
do wonder
sound.
if there's like a little bit of not a fluke, but also
Yeah, it contributed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally makes sense. You did miss an incredible weather weekend in Los Angeles. It was amazing.
Yeah,
here
well,
this
I'll tell
weekend.
you, I was in Boston and that sucked weather-wise. Like
Many people are saying
lovely
being in
town,
Boston
got to go
sucks.
to Fenway for the first time. Beautiful wedding. Congrats, Isaac and Sammy, who also they picked a Star is Born song for their first dates. It was absolutely
That's great.
iconic stuff from them. But it was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't summery.
There were plenty of people who were more than happy to ignore the 75 and sunny weather that we had in LA to go see this movie too. I think, this obviously comes in addition to the 77 million the Mission Impossible The
Right.
Final Reckoning made, which is a totally good Mission
Right.
Impossible performance. It's kind of like exactly in line. It's like the mean average of most of these movies. It's technically the biggest 3-day weekend, or I think it's technically the biggest 3-day weekend that a Mission Impossible movie has ever had. But it had IMAX screens,
Right,
and
yeah.
it's like these movies don't
Inflation
usually
and-
open.
yeah.
Yeah, inflation. They usually don't open on Memorial Day. They're usually, I think, July movies. The first film and the second film were both Memorial Day weekend, and none since. So there's a more of an open crowd coming to this. Memorial Day is usually where I think of franchises like going to die, like Pirates of the Caribbean and Fast 6 and
Right.
Men in Black 3, and a lot of movies that open where they're like, the franchise isn't dead yet, but it's kind of like entering its final era. So maybe it's fitting that Mission
I guess
closed
so.
things out. I'm just going to ask you again, since
Yeah.
we spoke about it last week, like, does this result make you feel any differently about whether or not this will be the last Mission Impossible movie?
No, I think it's just mediocre enough to not be indicative,
Yeah.
If it had been an absolute sensation, if it had been Lilo and Stitch, then we would know they would make another one. If
Yes.
it were DOA, I think we would know that probably they don't. But, Paramount hasn't settled anything, and
That's a big part of it. You're right.
and this is just like fine,
Mhm.
and maybe people will keep going to see it. I was surprised to see the cinema score was an A-.
I was too.
And
We got some feedback on our conversation, which was pretty in-depth about what didn't work for us, even though weirdly, I think we both were like, this is pretty good.
yeah, we got a lot of feedback of people being like, well, you shouldn't have taken it so seriously in the first place, to which I say, find another podcast.
Disagree. Yeah, completely disagree with that.
But people do seem pleased
Yeah.
or like enjoyed it, which, it helps that the biplane is the last stunt. We walked out being like, wow.
You walk out high.
Yeah.
And I think that always helps in these circumstances. It's the same feeling I had when I saw Final Destination Bloodlines, which has
Yeah.
now made $95 million in 11 days.
I did guess pretty high on that one.
Not that
Not
high.
this high, but like at least I'm going to get closer,
Yeah, I think I guessed 46 million total
Yeah,
for that film, and
yeah.
it beat it in 1 week.
Yeah.
This movie was originally supposed to be an HBO Max original. This wasn't even supposed to be in theaters, which is the same is true also of the Evil Dead movie that came out 2 years ago, which also went on to great box office success. Also true of Smile, which came out 3 years ago, which was supposed to be for Paramount Plus. The lesson, as always, put your horror movies in movie theaters. I mean, if you have even like a mid-budget horror movie with a decent marketing campaign, people want to go see these movies. It helps that Bloodlines is a ton of fun, but this is unusual for the 6th edition of an old franchise.
This is why I was trying to figure out, okay, so like what's going on? Why is everyone at the movies?
It's
What
another
are
factor.
the social, and I guess TV's sort of in a down slump right now, unless you're into Last of Us. I know it just finished, but there's not that much going on. There's some sports.
I mean, the rehearsal season 2 just ended.
Oh, sure,
and
yes.
it is an extraordinary piece of television.
What do you think the overlap is between the rehearsal and Final Destination Bloodline? Like probably larger than you would think?
Yeah, I think for socially damaged old millennials, it's really
Sure,
high.
yeah.
I think it actually has more in common given its aviation theme this season with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of
I gotta watch
plane
the Sully
flight.
episode. I've heard. I'm catching up.
Very strange and kind of magical season in that only Nathan Fielder could have done something like that. But other movies that are still going. I mean, Sinner's still going.
Yeah.
260 million, over 300 million internationally. This is pre-PVOD.
Yeah.
This movie's going to end up making a shit ton of money.
I was interviewing the younger generation at this wedding that I went to.
They see Sinners?
Yeah. And it was a high school senior who I asked, like, how many movies do you go see in theaters? And he's like, I went to Sinners, and that's the first movie I'd been to in a long time.
No kidding.
Yeah, but he's also into The Rehearsal. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another Venn diagram.
Yeah. Shout out Max.
That's beautiful, Max. Thank you. Thunderbolts. It's probably going to get to about 190 million. There was a report that went up about right before we started recording, which someone just texted me that said Thunderbolts was going to lose $100 million. I don't really know what that means. We had the same conversation about Sinners, but the fact that that's getting out in the world probably means it's ultimately considered a big disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And I did say on the Brave New World podcast,
yes,
if we get a few of these in a row, we can officially say this is over insofar as the centrality of it.
But isn't it all riding on Fantastic Four?
It is. It is. And if that underperforms, whatever that means financially, then I think it's safe to say we're in a new era where these movies will continue to exist. They will always have fans, but building entire content plans around them will be gone.
We'll be set free.
We'll still see the movies. You know, you went to go see Lilo and Stitch. So
I did by myself at 7:15 on a Monday night. And there were a lot of people there without children. So a lot of old couples. Yeah.
What could have been if you had not had children? You could have been seeing that film without even thinking about your children.
Yeah, that's exactly what would have
Sliding
happened.
doors, you know? Yeah. Just a remarkable weekend for the box office. That's setting aside. We're going to talk about Friendship later. That movie did really well for an indie. The Last Rodeo is an Angel Studios movie that Neil McDonough, I think, wrote and directed and stars in that made like $7.5 million. People just showed up at the movies. Maybe your theory is right. It's clearly, I don't know. It's just people want to see movies, man. It's not that complicated. And we've now fully shifted away from we got to send our movies straight to streamers. Like that's not happening anymore. It just doesn't make. They're leaving money on the table every time they do that. So that's exciting. Okay, speaking of money, let's talk about Lilo and Stitch.
Sure.
This is a live-action remake of the 2002 film that I mentioned. The original film is from Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, who went on to make the How to Train Your Dragon movies. Chris Sanders just had huge success last year with The Wild Robot. Dean Fleischer Camp is the director of this film.
And also the co-creator with Jenny Slate of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yes, they were once a couple. They're no longer together. This is his first film since that film. Stars Maya Kealoha, Sydney Elizabeth Agadong, Billy Magnuson, Hannah Waddingham. Incredible weekend for Hannah Waddingham. Courtney B. Vance. Incredible weekend for the Courtney B. Vance, Angela Bassett household. Zach Galifianakis. And then Tia Carrere, Amy Hill, and Jason Scott Lee are back in supporting roles. They had voice work in the original film. What did you think of Lilo and Stitch live action?
Qualitatively.
I
was sort of offended by this movie. I was offended. So the little girl is very cute, Maya Kealoha, and Stitch was cute as well. I definitely saw the first film probably in theaters, and I guess in some ways this is a very faithful recreation. But I think they also changed certain things for plot purposes. I was just talking to another millennial colleague, Tate Frazier, in the lobby.
Did Tate see it?
Tate saw it.
No kidding.
And he was like,
Tate loves the movies.
They changed everything to like make me mad. And
so Arjuna said something similar.
Yeah.
I think particularly the ending is really rankling people.
That bothered Tate as well. Yeah. And we can talk about it. But I just thought that whatever changes they made to the plot in order to introduce new characters and I guess up the stakes or make the stakes make sense once you have live humans were offensive and hurtful to both Lilo, Stitch, and me. You know? Like just and Nani. The teenage, like, let's just help them, you know, like, let's help everybody. Like, what are we doing? You know, like, why can't the neighbors just pitch in? Like, I don't really think that child services is like working that hard in this one, you know, like, what about some daycare, you know, like, what about universal health insurance? It doesn't matter. I was just really pissed off. I was like, this seems very rude to everyone involved. And just let them be nice and a happy family. Yeah.
You know what movie it reminded me of a little bit is The Florida Project?
Yeah, no shit. Seriously, I was like, what's going on?
Where it is incredibly dramatic about the future of a 6-year-old girl's life and the way that she is not being cared for in the way that she should be. The movie is weirdly very similar to the original, but also has made an effort to amplify the tension in a way that is like so common for like all Disney movies are all about like a child separated from their parents or their parent has died. And so that they need to figure out how to live their life safely while also not having a parent. But yeah, I think the collision of that with animated aliens roaming free through the Hawaiian vista is a little bit strange. I thought, to me, this is kind of a classic nothing of a movie. And I was just sharing with Jack that I saw it with Alice and she was very excited to see it. We had seen the original together probably about a year ago. And I wouldn't say it was one of her favorite movies of all time, but it's a movie that she liked. And who doesn't like Stitch? Like, he's just Stitch a very effective character. Great. And during the film, very engaged. Like leaping onto her mom or like laying on my lap. Like she was scared. She was kind of showing us how engaged.
It seemed very upsetting.
Yeah, there were parts that were a little intense for her. It's PG, not G. But after the movie ended, we heard nothing about it. No conversation. No, I liked this part. No, I'm into this character. No, can you buy me this? Which is unusual because there's this insane wave of Lilo and Stitch merchandising. This was written about in the New York Times recently that like this film over that 20 plus year period has become a real cash cow for Disney.
Like in what, like take me through the products,
plushies, like
so little
dishware, like literally you can put Stitch on anything and kids will want it.
Okay, got it.
And so
not like the Lilo and Stitch resort where you can go on vacation.
I'm going to Disneyland next week. I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm sure there will be a really deep Lilo and Stitch presence. Yeah. Lilo, I think, is a character that is like tremendously relatable for my daughter. You know, she's like very tough, independent-minded, like a little alienating at times. She's like and very focused on what she wants to accomplish. And I could see her like getting really invested. Anytime something was going bad for Lilo, she was into it. But the fact that it drifted away from her, usually like what did my daughter think doesn't really matter on this podcast. This is an instance where I think it does matter because this movie is targeted really close to her. And I think the movie being such a smash phenomenon, but also older millennials and super young kids being a little bit mixed on it. I think it's really hitting for like 9 and 10-year-olds. That was the impression I was getting. Was that they're loving it purely the same way that they were loving Minecraft, and that the silliness of it and the slapstick quality of Stitch was playing really well. And that's kind of all that matters. And they'll probably see it a second and third time. But if you're on either end of that spectrum, it's not a success.
I mean, I guess there is a lot of slapstick, but even Stitch doesn't get to do that much. You know,
they kind of show us all the Stitch moments in the trailer.
Yeah, he's being like hunted for a while and is hiding, and he barely gets to dance.
Yeah,
he barely gets to have any fun.
Yeah, a little bit less Elvis than I was hoping,
and a little bit more CIA and Intergalactic Council.
So I think in the original film, Courtney B. Vance's character is retired CIA, right? Isn't that the idea? That he's not actually CIA any longer?
I thought that the social worker is actually CIA.
Yes, I think he's retired CIA and he works as a social worker. But in this movie, he's like pretending to be a social worker.
Right.
And so it's like, it is kind of Men in Black where you're like, is this government agency going to get involved with the acquisition of this alien? Just a little convoluted.
Yeah. And it also adds in another adult who's there just preying on them instead of helping the situation. There's just like a lot of adults in here being like, why don't you just help this nice young woman who wants to be a marine biologist and is trying her best, and her 6-year-old little girl who just wants to do hula, and, you know, the crazy dog who's actually an alien.
So as I said, this story structure is very familiar. Like Lassie, E.T., The Black Stallion. Like there are tons of examples of little kid, you know, creature of some kind or unusual friend or alien or what have you. Do you like these movies? Like, is it like a subgenre that appeals to you at all?
I mean, I really like E.T. And I guess so. The idea of a little kid who needs a friend and then a friend comes and helps them in whatever form of friend it is nice. I think the older I get, the more focused I am on the failures of all the adults around them. So it's hard to enjoy them.
Yeah.
But it also, like, at least E.T. is aligned on how all the adults are screwing up. And like just casts them definitively as the bad people. So it's easier to understand why these two people need each other. And what are other? I don't know. I like a friendly creature.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Sure.
So sure, I'm open to it.
I mean, there's a ton of examples, not just like post E.T., there were at least a dozen studio movies that were about aliens coming to this planet and befriending, you know, Mac and Me is their like ongoing bit with Paul Rudd and Conan O'Brien. I don't know if you know this. So there's so many examples of these kinds of movies. Done poorly, they're really cringy, sentimental, and dreadful. Done well, they basically will touch your soul. You know, E.T. is one of the most The Black Stallion's a beautiful movie. Like there are beautiful versions of it. It's so funny that this one popped from Disney and the fact that 25 years later they're remaking it, because the movies that were coming out from Disney animated features at this time are notoriously either not good or were failures because it was happening simultaneous to the rise of Pixar. So Toy Story comes in 95, and then the late 90s and early 2000s for Disney animated features are like Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, Home on the Range. These movies are more or less forgotten. Like they have no cult following, or if they do, it's very small. And Lilo and Stitch somehow emerged as this like all-time classic now.
Well, I think Lilo and Stitch also broke through at the time in a way that those others did not. Because I was, you know, in high school at that point, and I have never seen any of those films you just
That's so
mentioned.
interesting.
But I did see Lilo and Stitch because it was like a thing. And it is a little bit of like the George Lucas. They just got the creature, right? You know? And it's just like the whether it's R2D2 or what are the new ones? Poogs? What? You remember? Poog is that old podcast.
I think it was Porgs, from Star Wars.
Yeah. Just the thing that turns into the plushie that you can sell, but they nailed it with Stitch.
Agreed. There's definitely a little bit of Gizmo from Gremlins going on here too, and Zach Gilligan's relationship to those characters.
And you know, like Baby Yoda, what's his real name?
Grogu.
Grogu is not like unrelated to Stitch. You know, you can see the lineage straight truly. On through Grogu to David Copperfield's Alien.
We should do the evolution of man poster chain, but all just like creatures who become friends with characters in the Disney universe. I did want to give some love to Billy Magnussen. I thought he was really funny in this. He plays Pleakley, who is an alien who gets a cloaking device that allows him to turn into a human who looks like Billy Magnussen.
Right.
He just knew what kind of movie he was in. You know, he has like a slapstick comedy quality that I think is in direct contrast to his handsomeness.
He's also the friendly alien, and so he's like the quote unquote Earth expert.
Yes.
And is so happy to be there. So there is like a you know, he can play the comedy, but also the he's not mean, you know, he's not shooting anyone. He's just like wearing funny clothes.
Yes.
So it's good.
This is an unkind question, but I'm just going to ask it. Did Zach Galifianakis get veneers?
I did note. I thought that it was a change in facial hair.
Okay.
But I do know what you're saying. I did notice something.
He just looked a little different.
I did notice something going on in this area. I thought it was like maybe a goatee instead of anything. Here's what I want to say.
I was distracted.
I know. Chapel Roan said this first, but I agree with her. I think that we need
a nightmarish formulation.
Veneers are okay. Let people get bad veneers. Is my opinion. I know, but it's like now
I'm not making a negative comment. It looked like he had veneers.
Yeah, which I mean that happens to people. That's how dentists make money. And
that's not the only way that they make money.
The other way is scamming you.
No, you and dentists need to talk it out. You guys need to talk it out.
They need to come up with a business proposal that isn't just lying to everyone all the time.
Right.
You know,
fair enough.
But that's fine. I think it's okay if people get
You've
veneers.
Never been more out of your depth than your dental rants.
No, I'm not out of my depth.
These are not... People have serious problems.
If you have pain, they can help. But otherwise, they're just paying you to use an electric toothbrush and then like shame you, you know? Like on you. I can do it at home. That's what it is.
You don't like to be told what to do, and if you're doing something wrong, you really don't
Let me show you how to floss. I know how to floss, by the way. Like show me the double-blind studies on flossing. Show me, okay? They don't exist.
You're looking at one. They've made a dramatic improvement in my teeth health.
Well, that's great.
I love a strong take.
Yeah.
That's one in particular where I have no idea what you're talking about. Dental work has radically changed millions of people's lives in this country and around the world. Moving on. The live action remake thing. We've talked about almost every one on this pod.
Except for Snow White.
We didn't talk. I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I think I was away when it came out, and Alice went to go see it without me.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was Rewatchables tour.
Right. So maybe when it hits D+, we can have a 3-hour conversation about Rachel Zegler's politics.
Okay.
Generally, the live-action remakes are painfully bad to me.
Yeah.
I really, really don't like this trend. And I thought after Snow White, maybe it was coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not.
No.
It's not coming to a close. It's going to continue because this movie is so big.
Well, what's left on the table?
Great question. I'm glad you asked.
Okay. Oh, boy.
There's nothing actually currently in production, as far as I know. One thing I did note is that this is the fifth consecutive movie that Disney Studios has released that has either been a sequel, a live-action remake, or both.
Okay.
Inside Out 2, Moana 2, The Lion King Mufasa, Snow White, and now this. 3 of the next 4 are also either sequels, live-action remakes, or both. The one original is Elio.
Mm-hmm.
And then Freakier Friday, Tron Ares, which honestly looks sick, so it's all good, and Zootopia 2. The Zootopia 2 trailer in the studio in the movie theater, bananas town. Kids losing their minds for the Zootopia 2 teaser.
Dead silent in my theater.
Okay.
Yeah, because there were
it's all adults.
Yeah, all adults.
At night.
And there are no words. And it was just people.
Did you like that bop, that EDM jam that they were playing?
I liked the little creatures who came out and played the keyboard. That
Have you seen Zootopia?
No, I was going to ask you, what's it about?
It's
They're in a zoo and then they break
a young
out?
rabbit who I believe is a police officer, and she has to investigate a case, and she brings in a fox character to help her research the case. It's kind of like
what's
Chinatown meets Peter Rabbit.
Okay, but are they in a zoo?
No, they live in a world full of animals. Zootopia is the world.
So Zootopia is the world, but because it rhymes with utopia, not because it's a zoo.
Bit of both.
But how is the world organized?
It's a wonderful question. Let's bring in the Chamber of Commerce from Zootopia, Jim Animal. I don't know. It's like
is it just like us? Is it like
they all have jobs?
It's like Richard Scarry vibes, where
Pretty
everyone.
much.
It's just like the pigs.
So you're not familiar with the sloth bit from Zootopia?
No.
You don't know the sloth joke?
No.
Jack, do you know the sloth joke from Zootopia?
Yeah, vaguely.
It's old. It's an iconic animated movie bit.
All right. Do you want to tell me?
Why don't you watch it in real time?
Okay.
I'll vamp while you're watching it.
Zootopia YouTube. Okay.
And if you're amused, that's great. Try to not listen to it too loud so we don't get any bleed here.
The sloth laughing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you just spoiled it for yourself, but I guess you had to search for it.
Well, it's the title of the thing. Oh, I think I've seen this guy, and hold on. Oh, and he's going like this.
What do you think about a sloth?
I don't really have any feelings about them one way or the other.
Okay.
I think that it's a live and let live situation for me.
So if you saw one in the street, you wouldn't murder it.
No, but I don't need to interact with it or put it in a zoo either. I think I would be frustrated if it were in a consumer facing role in the world that I lived in.
Consumer facing
role.
This
is what I'm looking at the movie.
There are no humans in the film Zootopia, so no need to worry about facing this sloth.
Okay. So the bit is just, okay, yeah. I think I've seen this meme.
I believe it was in the trailer.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, and he's laughing. Okay, I'm familiar.
Okay,
that's great.
Not sold on Zootopia 2. Disney is running the same playbook they've been running for 15 years. It's pretty depressing.
Yes.
I don't have any follow-up comments.
The other trailers that I saw were for Elio. Which is just...
I hope that's good.
But it is also like Fancy Boy, Lilo and Stitch, so that's fine.
Fancy Boy?
Not Fancy Boy. Fancy, and that I like, Pixar high art.
Fancy, comma, italicized boy.
Yes.
Dash.
Because Elio is a boy.
Yes.
Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like a home and away situation.
Yes. What if Stitch dragged Lilo to another planet?
But that's fine. I mean, there are no new ideas under the sun. Freakier Friday. Watch the trailer. I'm happy for Lindsay.
It looks like a yogurt commercial.
It does. It does actually look like one of the Jamie Lee Curtis yogurt commercials. So that is tough.
Will we do an episode on Freakier Friday? I feel like it's going to be a hit.
I'm gonna. I'm going to be on leave again, so maybe we'll do it at the end of August.
Okay,
Yeah.
No, we should do it 5 years from now.
Okay.
Just circle back.
I don't know what's up with Tron Ares, but I'm happy for you, or sorry that happened.
I'm extremely excited because one, apparently Tron has gotten into the real world, which just sounds like crazy town. Two, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the score.
I'm excited about that.
That's enough for me. Jared Leto, not ideal.
Well,
not exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
In Tron Ares, that could have been. Who could that have been?
I'm just so
that could have been Joe Pantoliano.
Okay.
Instead, it was Jared Leto.
So Jared Leto is Ares?
I think he's the villain. I don't know.
That's what it says.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Jared Leto as Ares. Greta Lee as Eve Kim.
Love her.
Evan Peters as Julian Dillinger.
Julian Dillinger.
That's what it says.
Is that a reference to John Dillinger? Is that John Dillinger's great-grandson?
I am just reading the cast list on Wikipedia.com.
Okay. Is Jeff Bridges in the film? For Christ's sake?
Yes, Kevin Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember him. Gillian Anderson is apparently in this.
Gillian Anderson. Yeah, she's seen in the trailer looking ominously out of a giant building. Do you think Tron Ares will be better or worse than Lilo and Stitch?
Oh, that's a great question. So Tron Ares follows a highly sophisticated program, Ares, who is sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission, marking humankind's first encounter with AI beings. I'm going to say worse.
Okay. Tron Ares is being released on October 10th, a.k.a. Venom: A Star Is Born weekend.
Oh, great. Okay.
Should be pretty interesting. What else is coming out that weekend? Animal Friends, an animated movie created by Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah. So you'll be there front row.
Also coming out that weekend.
I'm excited for your voice performance in that.
Thank you. I play a sloth. After the Hunt is also coming out that weekend.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Lilo and Stitch, it's going to make $400 million in America.
Well,
I got no problem with it.
Okay.
I hope people enjoy things.
Yeah.
They should be able to enjoy things.
It's fine. I mean, I think all the adults around should do something to help this family, but we didn't talk about the ending.
The change in the end. Okay, if you don't want the new Lilo and Stitch spoiled for you.
Spoiler.
Yes.
Okay.
The ending in particular, the notes that I've heard from hardcore fans is the idea that Nani, her older sister, who I thought was really good in this movie.
I did as well.
The performances in general, I think, are pretty good in the movie. Leaves Lilo and Stitch and allows her to live with their neighbor, and she goes off to college, which is a change from the original story. Is there more about the ending that you found disquieting?
Well, I wasn't that upset with it, but everyone who is so loyal to the 2002 film is really upset that this young woman's getting an education, which I don't know if that's my take. She's going to San Diego. It's not that far.
If Barbie can get a hysterectomy, this woman can go to college. That's what I say. That's what she's getting at the end of Barbie. Right?
I was going to say, is that what she's getting? Hold on. I'm just pulling up Jack, do you remember what happens at the very end? Wow. Okay. All right. Just. No. In the original Lilo and Stitch. Okay. They just rebuild the house. Maybe there's nothing about going to college, I guess, in the original.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
I mean, I have too, but many years. I think it's okay if this young woman wants to go pursue higher education.
Sure.
And I honestly just don't understand why the neighbors didn't step in sooner.
Native Hawaiian Gen Z women can have it all.
What? But this was my main issue with the neighbors, who were like, call us if you need anything. Obviously, they need things. They need some help with childcare. They need some help with, basic, household tasks so that Nani can go get a job. Like, they need a lot of things.
Yeah. You should run for city council in Los Angeles. Your platform is extraordinary.
I just,
do you have a website?
You weren't mad?
I wasn't really thinking about the inner lives of these characters too much.
Okay.
I had not remembered that this ambition. The thing is that Ohana is the big theme of the movie, right? This idea of family and never leaving anyone behind.
Yeah.
The whole point of the movie is stick together. When you're in a family, you have to have each other's backs. And the beautiful thing about the movie at the end the idea that Stitch gets to stay on Earth.
And so does Billy Magnuson.
Yes. And Pleakley stays, and they're all together, and they're a family.
Right.
And so her leaving is a direct rejection of the core theme of the original film. It doesn't mean that the core theme of the original film is women shouldn't be able to go to college. It means that what's most important is taking care of one another. Now, you may disagree. You may say it's important that she study porpoises. You know, that is what really matters. I think
that even when you're 6, you can take care of your sister too by understanding that she needs to go to college and FaceTiming with her. Plus, they have the portal. So she comes back. So it's fine.
It's going to be a tough beat for your sons when you're like, I have to go to Venice because I have to take care of my things. And they're going to be like, who's got my back here?
That is literally what's happening. And the answer is their father. So it's fine.
Unfortunately for Lilo, she doesn't have any parents.
I know, but she has the neighbors and she has Stitch and she has Stitch's alien companion.
You're right. Family is a community is what you're saying.
And that is what the neighbor says ahead of time.
Well, should we all be so lucky to live in such a caring community?
I mean, I think that we should. Anyway.
This is just a lot more Lilo and Stitch than I expected to get into.
It took them a long time to become caring enough, though. That was my issue.
It is weird when Amy Hill's character comes around and she's like, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good luck.
This is what I'm saying.
It's very true. It's because it's such a contrivance in the plot. Right. They have to kind of yada yada it.
And also the social worker being like, oh, we can help you with the cost of the health insurance if you surrender your child to us. Just like, how about you just pay?
You know what's so funny? So Tia Carrere voices Nani in the original film. And the film came out, I don't know, probably like almost 10 years after the Wayne's World boom.
Right.
And that's where most of us saw her for the first time. If you were me,
very important.
One of the most intoxicating people that's ever lived. And I just saw her in person at a screening of Mary Poppins at the Academy Museum. And I clocked her immediately. She's so striking. And I was like, what the hell has Tia Carrere been doing with her life? Lo and behold, 1 month later, she showed up in the biggest movie of the year. I'm really happy for her. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think I summed it right up.
Let young women go to college?
Yeah, if they would like to.
They would like to. Okay.
Build the support system so that they can.
You tried to nudge in universal health care, which I also believe in, but I'm not totally is that the subterranean message of the film?
It is like really, really upsetting to me, the scene with Tia Carrere after they forget to apply for health insurance and then...
The only way we can take care of you is if you're a ward of the state.
And she's like, we can handle all of this if you sign away like all familial rights to this kid. And I was like, how about you just pay for it and then give them some money for groceries? Yeah. Just a thought.
Well, I can't disagree with that. It is quite an insidious plot device to make us feel for this family, while also considering the nature of our federal and state governments.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work today.
Sure.
Now that we've talked about the struggles of young women in this country, we can talk about the struggles of aging men.
Yeah.
With the film Friendship.
Yeah.
So Friendship is a new comedy from Andrew DeYoung. He wrote and directed this movie, which I find fascinating because the movie so clearly locates the comedic talent of Tim Robinson.
Yes.
Tim Robinson has become, over the last 10 years, a beloved comic figure in America. He co-created Detroiters. He was very briefly a cast member on Saturday Night Live. And he is the co-creator and star of I Think You Should Leave, which has been a very successful Netflix sketch comedy show that I think has had 3 seasons now. First season is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. I have never laughed harder at a TV show. I loved it dearly. This movie also stars Kate Mara, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Paul Rudd. It's about a guy named Craig, who is a marketing executive drifting through his midlife, and he tries to befriend his charismatic new neighbor, who's a weatherman. And the friendship very quickly sours into a kind of obsession, and it soon threatens to ruin both of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the movie Friendship?
This was a durational experience for me. But which I think is actually part of the art. Like, I think it's very good.
Yeah.
And
they did what they wanted to do.
It is clear that you are watching exactly what was intended. That they have like a very specific insight into whatever is going on with all of you. And by you, I mean men.
Yes.
I think it's like sociologically and artistically really insightful and accomplished. I saw it in a silent theater.
Really?
Like, it was
I've heard varying reports on
silent.
this.
And I have as well. I've also talked to people who saw it, and they were absolutely, like, in theater where everyone was losing it.
Did you see it at press screening, or do you see it in the movie theater?
No, I saw it at Burbank 16.
Okay.
And where you would think that I would be among my people.
Yeah.
I think I maybe laughed the most.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And which was at a few, like, really choice moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I would characterize most of the other laughing, oh, no, you know what? I saw it at the Americana, which is maybe changing.
Different crowd,
yeah. just to be fair.
Yeah.
And
no shots to the AMC Americana, but the Burbank sickos are like
that.
Those are the real heads,
like that.
Yeah.
When movies,
which is a stupid delineation, but it is true.
Well, when movies only open in 2 theaters in LA when they're limited, it's at Century City and at the Burbank 16. Like, that is where we see our fellow big pick psychos all the time. And I would characterize the laughter that did happen as, like, mostly nervous. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if everyone knew what they were walking into.
I don't know. I saw it at a press screening.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of the downsides of this movie is that many people, including our pal Adam Naiman, have called this the funniest movie of the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so that immediately raises the stakes. And I think is creating an expectation for a movie akin to The Hangover or The 40-Year-Old Virgin, or these memories we have of going to see these kind of crass buddy comedies from the 2000s or even the 90s that made you, like, rolling in the aisles, the early Farrelly Brothers movies. That's not really what Tim Robinson does.
No.
He has a much more sharply defined, discomforting psychological edge to a lot of his comedy, because the character that he almost always plays is a guy who is doing something insane, and he is insanely insecure about it. And this movie is the kind of the pinnacle of that approach. It's not the same as a sketch. It does feel as though a sketch has been stretched, though.
Yes.
Like the premise of the movie is fairly thin, but then the details of it are highly specific.
Right.
And that's part of what makes the movie effective and fun for me.
I mean, and it is structured in such a way where it is a kind of a series of sketches that, which is in many ways like what all comedy movies are. Mm-hmm. It's like now they got to do this, and now they got to do this. So anything from, like, the trip to the frog trip.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
The drug trip.
Yeah.
The obviously the maze situation, but they're, like, discrete events of things that inevitably go terribly wrong, that are mini sketches within their own.
The frog licking sketch is a really good example of something that it would be weird to be laughing very hard through the entirety of that sequence, but there is a version of laughing that is like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And that was how I felt during that one.
Yeah.
I probably had a 50-50 balance between, wow, they're really going for it, self-awareness, and then I can't control myself, this is so funny. When the guy identifies himself as Jimp, I, like, almost fell out of my seat. I would think that is one of the funniest things I've ever heard, that his name was Jimp. That's the kind of dumb shit that I think powers the movie, in addition to that weird edge that I'm talking about.
Right.
And the truth is this is a real thing. I wouldn't say I actually personally struggle with this very much. I found that I've actually made a bunch of new friends in my life in the last few years, more so than in the previous 5 or 6 years, in part because of the show, because I have a thing that communicates to the wider world. Like, here's what I'm into. Yeah. And so it's easier to be like, oh, you're into that, I'm into that. And then we have a lot of like-minded interests. But it's very common for middle-aged men who have families, and let's say, they've fallen, out of touch with some friends, or their lives have gotten more tightly focused on their career and their families. And then they lose this kind of social contact. And then they even kind of lose themselves in their families and in their jobs. And then they have a real difficulty making new friends or, like, finding new communities. Andrew DeYoung has definitely located an actual, I don't know if it's a phenomenon, but something that does happen to a lot of people. Friends of mine I know have experienced this specifically. And it's a very serious social disorder, I think, that, like, kind of presages the incel era.
Sure.
Where, like, you can just kind of kill time on your phone all the time. You don't have to be around people. You throw yourself into, like, I hear this new Marvel movie is nuts. Some of the jokes that they're writing, like,
it's a no Marvel spoiler zone. That was really funny. It's
very good. But I think by finding something quite not serious, but quite real, and then building around the Tim Robinson insanity of humor around it was a good choice.
No, I think it's very effective and fascinating. It was interesting that we put together our like movie friendships list. And like always, I tried to think of movies about, female friendships, of which there are many, but they're always about how screwed up their friendships are. Whereas historically, like when you think of a buddy comedy, you think of like two guys who have a pretty uncomplicated, hey, I love you, man, and I love you, man, and now we have to go like, solve a crime somewhere and laugh it up. And so there are not that many complicated, male friendships. And sometimes it does seem like you guys, you're either like totally okay and like not worried about it, or things are very, very weird and between men. And so this is a good examination of category B.
I think I don't personally have a ton of I don't fight with you. Your husband is my best friend. Like I don't know if we've ever had a fight. Chris and I never fight.
Right.
It's just not really a part of our genetic DNA. And part of that I think is that we kind of know where to go and where not to go.
Yes,
for the most part in the relationship. But in this movie, it's a new friendship. And so it's people in the middle of their lives when they kind of have become who they are, trying to find a way to become close.
Right.
And very quickly we see that Craig and Austin, the Paul Rudd character, it seems like they have something shared where they have this like slightly kind of punk edge where they want to defy the expectations of their life. Austin literally plays in a punk band, even though he's a weatherman during the day. Craig is sort of like, oh, you can like break into a sewer and smoke cigarettes.
Right, and you don't have to have a phone.
Right. There's like certain things that he has accepted about daily modern life that Austin is showing him don't need to exist. And so at the very early stages of their friendship, they're giving each other something.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Craig gets dropped into a social environment with Austin's other friends, it's clear how much he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with them. He doesn't fit with Austin. He doesn't even really fit in the world.
Yeah.
He's just an odd guy.
Well, and then it becomes, part of it is also just, this is about like one person who, like Lilo, like many of other people, doesn't really know how to make friends, thinks he finds his other person. And then you realize, oh no, he is the weirdo. Like, and we don't often get movies about the loser.
So do you think this
or if we do, it's Taxi Driver.
Well, okay. So that's what I was going to say, because that's a really great comparison.
Yeah.
And there is certainly a kind of Scorsese quality to this movie where you're like, they're not, even though there's a lot of jokes, they're playing it pretty straight.
Yeah.
There's even a gun theft in this movie. So if Craig was played by a different actor who was not so clearly communicated as Tim Robinson is funny.
Right.
If it was even if it was John C. Reilly and Paul Rudd, where like John C. Reilly could go either way.
Yeah.
This could be a comedy or this could be an incredibly tense
John
drama.
C. Reilly is like if it's Step Brothers John C. Reilly, like that's
okay. How about
pretty
this?
Close.
How about Joaquin Phoenix?
Right. Well, then
where you're
it's
like, this guy's
strange.
weird.
Yeah.
But he's not kidding.
Well, and he's also, Joaquin Phoenix is just like not classically handsome, but is sort of classically movie star handsome. So that's another,
you always bring that up. Yeah.
Listen, a lot of people are getting on the train, and I just I've been on the train since inventing the Abbotts.
Joker 2?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't like it when people sing, so I don't want to mess up, the fond memories I have.
You don't like it when people sing?
I don't like it when most people sing. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, are you happy when you're somewhere and someone just like bursts into song? Like 90% of the time, unless it's Adele.
Where does that happen?
I don't know, but whenever it does,
a musical
don't you just
concert?
Want to panic? No, but when it's like I don't know. Most of the time when people are singing, I wish they weren't. Jack, it's very normal.
I agree with you. But I don't understand what are the circumstances in which people just begin to sing at you in public. Does this happen frequently?
It's like usually,
you mean like a busker?
No, that's okay. Sometimes they're good. I mean, if they're not good, then what are you going to do? I don't know. Like gatherings, like weddings, like graduations, people
are bursting into song at these
sometimes
events?
People do sing at a wedding, and that is like tough. That did not happen at the wedding that I went to.
I can't believe you didn't ask me to sing at your wedding. I could have sang something beautiful. I could have sang an Irish lullaby.
Yeah, just most of the time it's just really, it's a level of sincerity and also asking for attention that is really, really makes me uncomfortable.
How did we get onto this subject?
People singing. I don't remember. There is a really funny singing moment in this movie.
Yeah.
That's when I laughed the most.
There are a couple. We learned early in the movie that Craig is in a punk band.
Right.
But then when he and his friends are together, they also sing late 90s hip-hop dance jams.
Acapella.
But
I was laughing. That was the true guffaw in the theater for me.
Another genius construction of Craig realizing that he just doesn't fit in with these guys, even though what these guys are doing is ridiculous. And I pray to God no group of friends are doing that anywhere in the world right now. It is really funny. I think there's something kind of challenging in a good way about being forced to be with Craig Robinson for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Again, durational.
Yeah. Which I ultimately did enjoy. And the highs are so high. But I did feel like this movie could end with him murdering everyone and I wouldn't have been stunned.
Yes, but I think I would have been a little annoyed.
Oh, because then it was trying to be too serious?
No, or if it were using that as like pure comedy, then it would sort of undercut what it is achieving, and it's weirdness for the sake of
then it would have seemed like a nihilistic.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I really enjoyed both Kate Mara's character and her performance.
Yeah,
I could not think of another example of a character like this in the history of a movie. In the movie, which is like pure comedy, she never winks. She's never like in on the joke. She is a person who is living her life specifically the way that she wants to live it. Now, she's in a marriage with Craig, and she has a teenage son that she has an unusually close and physical relationship with. But she is very openly talking about her friendship with her ex-boyfriend, and she's also very clearly perturbed by the lack of support she receives from her husband with her flower business. And like over time, she just kind of drifts away from him and just pushes him away. She has like a tremendous amount of agency in this movie.
Right.
After she's lost in a sewer system.
Right. Well, she does get lost in a sewer system, you know?
I love Kate Mara, as you know. Sure. I thought the way that she chose to play it was really interesting. Not what you usually would see from the wife character in the buddy comedy. And not funny, but very... Is it stupid to say profound?
No, I don't think so. I think that this is a very intelligent movie for something that is like really, really stupid also, and playing for like blunt laughs. But I think also if she's not there is something about the way she performs it and her sort of like independence and just kind of how she's separated off from him that keeps you from asking questions like, why are you married to this person? Like, how did any of this happen? There's like a otherworldliness to how all of these people are behaving that gets you past the suspension of disbelief.
Yes, agreed.
So it's
like
a great
when Connor
choice.
O'Malley enters the garage.
Everything Connor O'Malley does in this is also the other time I absolutely lost it.
Connor O'Malley going in the garage is like when Godzilla and Kong finally face each other in Godzilla versus Kong, where you're like, I've just been waiting 5 movies to see these guys punch each other, and I would like Connor O'Malley in more movies is where I stand on that. It's a very funny scene. 2 guys who were like experts at the awkward like everyone realizes there's something wrong with this guy except for this guy, who both raise their voices in uncomfortable ways and who have located something about like the disillusionment in the American spirit that the internet has bored down into people. Like they both have kind of picked up on something in different ways where it's just like every guy looking at his phone is basically broken. And they get it.
It's true.
They get it.
What does Connor O'Malley yell as he leaves the garage?
Oh, I forget.
I really, really good.
Okay.
And then at the end of the party, also, it's very funny stuff.
I also enjoyed Craig's blown pitch to the mayor about his new marketing campaign, which is also just phenomenal stuff. This is a very funny movie. I know it's hard to get theatrical comedies going, and this movie is on a smaller scale, and it's obviously a cheaper movie. It was a festival movie that I think got picked up by A24 out of TIFF, and it seems like they're doing pretty good business with it. I don't think it like shows the way for anything, but
No, but it's nice that it exists.
Yeah, and I think it probably is like a little bit of a proof of concept for a slightly bigger Tim Robinson thing if he wants it.
Right. But this is also, this seems like the right level. I think this will become like a very off-referenced movie. You know, it's sort of like instant cults.
Yes. It will be on Max in 3 months, and then people will watch it over and over again, just like they watch I Think You Should Leave. Paul Rudd. We haven't mentioned him too much in this episode.
Very funny.
He's great. There's a phenomenal episode of Good Hang with Amy Poehler with Paul Rudd. I highly encourage people. It's just them doing bits for an hour. I really liked it. Him doing this movie is great. He definitely didn't have to do this. You know, I think he clearly did it because he thinks Tim Robinson is funny. He still looks exactly like the guy from Romeo and Juliet 35 years later, which is a little dispiriting for me.
This has been like a meme for 15 years now, but
that
it
meme
does
was like
keep
9
going.
years ago, and it's still going.
Yeah.
And it's played for an incredible laugh in the movie because it's revealed in the movie that his character is bald and wears a toupee, which is something that we would joke about Paul Rudd, who's preserving his eternal fountain of youth. By the way, I saw the film Fountain of Youth on Apple TV Plus this weekend.
Oh yeah, I'll do it at some point, but yeah,
I don't think it deserves much airtime here on the pod. I thought he was really good in this. I thought he was really funny. I thought his character was also a little bit more complex than I was expecting. He wasn't just the suave, cool guy who dashed into town and took Craig's breath away.
Right.
He also is kind of a middle-aged guy going through it who needed to be inspired to do some things differently, who also is flawed, who also is insecure.
Right.
You know, in a way that was like, I don't know, pretty fascinating.
And they make fun of him too. You know, he's the aspiring weatherman, but he's like not popular at work.
Yes.
You know,
getting kicked by his bosses. The anchors are very rude to him. Pretty funny movie.
Definitely. And also good. It is not a broad comedy, and I do wonder how many people I saw the movie with who were just like, what is happening? You know?
Yeah. There's a strain of that, I think, for anybody who fires up I Think You Should Leave too, where you're just like, this is just there's a real not for me contingent, which is totally fine. Ultimately not the best movie about friendship that I've ever seen.
I think that it is a very good movie about the way that a friendship can mutate. I mean, this is the thing, right? When we were making our lists, is it like model friendships or good movies about friendships? Because I went through a lot of movies where I'm like, well, she's a pretty bad friend, and I wouldn't do that if I were, or I would be mad about this.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like, you kind of need that to make a movie.
Well, you have one on here that I left off, but I'm glad you added it because something happens to it that kind of like makes me sad. And
but is also a major part of the movie.
It is.
You know, and is, I think, a good movie about friendship.
Yes. Okay. Let's do our lists.
Okay.
I'll go first because my first one's kind of a joke, but I do believe in it.
Okay.
These are friends who are new friends, like the friends in the movie Friendship.
Yeah.
And they instantly bond. I'm talking about McLovin and the cops from Superbad.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about Superbad, which is an all-time movie that we love, is the way that the cops, played by Bill Hader and Seth Rogen, play it so straight that they're having a blast with McLovin while they're riding around in their cruiser with him, and that they feel a bond and a connection with him. And when it turns out that he's not who he says he is, that they are deeply hurt, and that all the fun that they've had has been premised upon a lie. And it's just a rare, beautiful portrait of cops in a movie. And McLovin, of course, Christopher Mintz-Plasse gives an incredible performance in that movie. So that's my first one.
Yeah. Mine is the Flossie Posse from Girls Trip. Okay, so this is my like group of women together in a movie. Sex and the City not eligible because that was a TV show first. Yeah, but it was a TV show first. I thought about it. Also, they have their ups and downs as friends.
And Just Like That is coming back soon.
I could not be more aware or more excited.
Yeah.
I already volunteered myself as the And Just Like That correspondent on The Watch.
Great.
So I won't be here for the next 10 weeks. I'll just be on The Watch.
Understood.
Diagramming every bit of it.
Sounds good. Solo Phoenician Scheme pod for me.
There are a lot of movies about like a group of women, usually 4, and they are, figuring things out, but really at the end they love each other. And this one is both genuinely like fun and funnier. And then also just the speech that Regina Hall gives at the end made me cry. So there is like something like very heartfelt about it that I still remember. And obviously a sensation, like box office wise.
So we had a bunch of these when we were kids.
Yeah.
I think Steel Magnolias probably kicked off the trend of these movies, but I remember very vividly Now and Then was like a huge one.
Sure.
What were some other examples?
Huge for me too. Devon Sawa forever.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that Devin Saab was Final Destination until I listened to your podcast.
Galaxy is the critical character in the film. There are some other examples. What are some other? I mean, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants is like a famous version of this, right?
First Wives Club.
First Wives Club. That's a great one. Yeah, there's a lot of these.
Yeah.
They're pretty persistent. My number 4 is two women. Two women named Enid and Rebecca from Ghost World, played by Thora Birch, also Now and Then, and Scarlett Johansson. I think this is maybe the second time I saw Scarlett Johansson after The Horse Whisperer. That was a movie, right?
Okay. Yeah, with Robert Redford and Kristen Scott Thomas.
Yeah, I think she was the Horse Whisperer.
Can I tell you for a minute, I thought that Kristen Scott Thomas was voicing the Galactic counselor or whoever in Lilo and Stitch, and then I recognized it was Hannah Waddingham doing far better accent work than she did in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I gotta give her credit.
Good to know.
I would have been happy to see that money to go to Kristen Scott Thomas.
We're getting far away from Enid and Rebecca. However, I watched an interview with Hannah Waddingham about her working with Tom Cruise, and she was extremely laudatory, as most actors are. And she made one note that I thought was interesting, which is that she said when she was working on the movie that Tom Cruise waited to shoot his coverage until the end of the day. And she said, unlike many other stars whom I've worked with, this is incredibly uncommon, that it is important for their coverage to be shot first, that they be taken care of first. And he was like, we got to make sure everybody else looks good and everybody else is taken care of. I'm not sure that's really meaningful in any way, but I thought it was a very specific detail that she chose to share or was encouraged to share about her experience with Tom. Anyway, Enid and Rebecca, Ghost World, fascinating movie about two young women who find themselves kind of like searching for the next stage of their life. They befriend an older man who's a collector, a jazz music fan, a blues music fan, and they kind of like befriend him at first to kind of mock him and make fun of him, and then slowly come to recognize he is like a kindred spirit. Enid in particular kind of like falls for the idea of him. He's played by Steve Buscemi. And their friendship is really interesting. It's somewhat similar to one of the ones on your list too, in that they kind of, you can see that they've been friends for a very long time since they were young girls. And that as they've gotten older, they've stayed close in some ways and drifted in other ways. And the things that they're interested in, Enid is like a little bit more of an oddball. And Rebecca is becoming a little bit more normie through the course of the storytelling. And the way that they like there's no dramatic throwdown between them. They just kind of like very gently drift for a while, but they know that they'll always love each other. And I always thought it was like a very sophisticated portrait of a particular kind of friendship. And I think they're both like such great actors. And I love that movie.
My number 4 is, less high-minded, but also really beautiful. Danny and Rusty in Ocean's 11.
Yeah. This is me and CR.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, you think we need one more?
Yeah.
You think we need one more?
Yeah.
We need one more.
Shorthand.
Yeah. Nothing. They are together. They understand each other. They don't have to speak the things. It's beautiful. It's probably like my ideal form of friendship.
It's nice when...
also they do crimes.
It's kind of the opposite of Craig and Austin, where it's like they've got 30 years behind them.
There's a real comfort and trust in that they understand each other, and so then they just go do their things. And even when Danny has actually turned out to set up the whole thing in order to get back Tess, I think Rusty's mad for like 5 seconds and then eats some cocktail shrimp and then moves on. So it's fine.
Is Rusty good at his job?
I think so, because he gets the money out of the vault, Okay. He's in they're all in the vault together.
Just asking questions.
I mean, I guess Danny's in there too. I'm trying to think.
Maybe time for a revisit.
Yeah. But no, I mean, he plays a crucial role in moving things together and moving things apart.
Okay.
So
I'll roll with you on it. Okay. Ocean's 11, great movie. Number 3 is a little bit of a recognition of something that you were talking about. This is Gus, Harry, and Archie from the John Cassavetes movie Husbands, which came out in 1970, which is I think a very famous movie among a certain kind of person that is about a very specific kind of... It's sort of a prequel to Friendship. It's about old friends, guys who've known each other for a long time, who come together in the aftermath of the death of their other closest friend. And it's Ben Gazzara, Cassavetes, and Peter Falk play the 3 friends, 3 guys who have appeared in many Cassavetes movies over the years. And it's about them having a little bit of a what we might call a crash out in 2025 in the aftermath of this death, where they're kind of getting into trouble and kind of wandering around the city, getting drunk, playing basketball, picking fights with strangers, picking fights with each other, finding ways to kind of sloppily communicate how much they care about each other, but then also how much they hate when one of the others does something. Only death can kind of draw out this kind of honesty amongst friends, I think. And this is a really emotionally sophisticated movie that feels really slapdash on purpose. I really love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's also kind of a nightmare from the outside, but
it's not if you're a woman, this movie is
but again,
hard
it's
to watch.
Well portrayed, but yeah.
I would say it's accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My number 3 is Francis and Sophie from Frances Ha. And this movie is a lot of ways and about how they're very close friends and roommates at the beginning of the movie. They are in a transitional phase of life, and so they are moving away from each other as the movie goes on, which often happens, especially for at that phase of life.
Yes.
And
late 20s, what am I really doing?
Right.
I gotta
am
make
I
some
getting
choices.
my stuff together? Yeah. And I think that the hurt and the confusion and also the love are all portrayed like without melodrama. They just kind of are. And so it feels very true and wistful at the same time. And they get to an okay place, and everyone's going to be okay. Which is kind of what is beautiful about Frances Ha in general. One of my favorite movies. And I think it is very, very lived in, that friendship.
I agree. I really like gosh, what is her name?
Mickey
Sumner, her performance. And after I remember seeing after the movie, obviously Greta has gone on to incredible things, but I feel like I have not really seen her very much. And I feel like she embodied, I was like, that's a girl I know in New York. Like that is like my friend's friend. And I think that there's something very wistful about Frances being the one who's left behind. And I do think that in a lot of small groups of friends, there's one friend where you're like, whatever happened to X? But to build the movie around the person who's like, whatever happened to X is just a very smart idea and a wonderful movie. Okay. Number 2 is fresh in my mind because I just rewatched it for our Children of Men conversation. It's Julio and Tenoch from Y Tu Mamá Tambien. Diego Luna back in the news due to Andor, obviously. And Gael Garcia Bernal's characters from Cuarón's beautiful road movie. I put this on the list because I think it's a really great example, not just of 2 guys who are best friends who end up basically falling in love without necessarily speaking about that feeling.
It's funny that our number 2s are the same.
They are matched in some ways. But because it's about the evolution of a friendship, like the way that a friendship, which seems very tight and very close, like they're homies at the beginning and they're going on this trip together and they're like, they think already that there's nothing more that they could say to each other that would blow each other's minds. But across the movie, things become so much more emotionally intense and they have like such a series of realizations about one another and about themselves that it kind of shows you like what a close relationship can do for your life. So that's just an amazing film. And I recommend it.
Once again, I'm, that's the art film and mine is the mainstream classic. Veda and Thomas from My Girl. Jack, you seen My Girl?
I have not.
So you don't know what happens at the end of My Girl?
I do not.
I remember when I had to tell Bobby what happens at the end of My Girl.
It's devastating.
Okay, can I spoil it for you?
You can.
Okay.
Just if you haven't seen the film My Girl.
Yeah,
1994 cinematic classic.
Listen.
Veda Sultanfuss as portrayed by Anna Klumsky.
Yeah.
We all loved her.
I don't remember Thomas's last name, but he is portrayed by Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
And Veda
at the height of Home Alone mania.
Veda is going through some tough stuff at home. She lost her mom. Her dad's dating someone new. She's a little bit of a, she's...
Is it Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis?
I believe so.
Okay. That's correct.
Yeah.
And she's like 10, 11, a little bit, which is a tricky age, kind of tomboyish, kind of just, frustrated with everyone.
So Alice. Oh my God. She's so
I know.
Alice.
And then Thomas shows up and he's just a new kid in class who becomes her friend. And they become friends. Then things are kind of sorting out at home. And then Veda has this mood ring that she loves and she loses her mood ring. And Thomas goes back to get it for her because they're best friends. And he's allergic to bees and gets stung by a bee and he fucking dies. He dies, Jack. He's 10 years old and he dies. And like when you are 10 and you're watching this.
I was just going to say, I was 11 when I saw this and I felt like I got shot in the heart.
It is still so fucked up.
So real. You're saying like this is not an art film or whatever. This is a really, really good movie and very effective movie.
Yeah, it's really, really effective. And it gets something very true about friendship at that age. And they are, they like practice kissing together. And maybe if they were older, they, there's like the seedlings of a romantic thing, but there still is also that they're just like 2 10-year-olds like trying to figure out in the world, and they each need someone else. And it's like very uncomplicated. And then the loss is also just absolutely like pure and gutting. And
we don't really see him officially die. We see her being told that he didn't make it, as I recall. And it's so powerful. So my best friend growing up was a girl, my friend Sarah, and Sarah and I saw this movie together. And very, very, very tough. And Sarah was a little Veda-ish as well.
Okay.
And great. Honestly, really good movie.
Incredible movie.
I mean, maybe we'd watch it now and be like, this piece of trash, why was it shot this way? But I really don't think
I don't think the adults are taking Veda's emotional needs seriously enough.
Okay, I think our ones are kind of obvious, but in good ways. My number one is, of course, Elliot and E.T. from the film E.T., which is very similar to Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
The idea of a formulation of a boy who just really needs a friend.
Yeah.
Things at home are not going well. He feels a little bit at sea at school and socially, and he wants something kind of deeper and bigger in his life, and he can't really find it on the ground until E.T. presents himself, and then he kind of builds his whole emotional life around the friendship to E.T. Steven Spielberg, the master of directing child actors, and it's hard to have a new thought about E.T. I've podcasted about it many times in my life, and I can't wait to show it to my daughter. But I thought it was kind of the perfect match for the new friendships in this episode.
Yes. Clearly Lilo and Stitch owes a great debt to it. I mean, I can't really talk about it without crying. But it's
a great movie.
And similar to my number one in that it's about a friend who needs another friend in a moment, but that also ultimately, if you love someone, let them go.
Just to let them go.
So mine is Will and Chucky from Good Will Hunting. And, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck as well. But this scene, the best part of my day is, when I show up and just for a second, I think that you're not going to be there. And they have known each other forever. They understand each other. They also understand that there's something different. I wouldn't say it's like an equal friendship. I think Chucky's like giving a little bit more and Will's like taking a little bit, but he's had a hard life. So it's what he needs, I guess. And Chucky's going to be okay. He can ace any job interview that he needs to. But, that I feel like that one Ben Affleck moment, that speech is like immediately iconic. And it is a nice idea of friendship, right? Of knowing that you wanting the best for your friend. So beautiful stuff. Love them forever.
Great choices. Friendship, complicated thing to portray in the movies. I don't even really know what were among my honorable mentions. There's kind of too many to add. I tried to avoid the like classic Lethal Weapon, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Right,
like,
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, Thelma and Louise. Like these guys, they loved each other and then they died.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts? You feel good about the box office and how movies are back?
And dentistry, all of it.
Well, it's just, you're an anti-dentite. You may recall from Seinfeld.
I think that they play an important role in society. But that then they're just scamming you. Like when you are having a real tooth problem, they fix it and they like alleviate pain and help people live happy and healthy lives.
You don't usually have a real health problem until you don't do the things that dentists advise.
No, I think preventative dentistry is a scam invented to make money.
Okay.
There we go.
You've shared that take many times with no verifiable proof.
I'm asking them to show me I brush my teeth.
An entire field of study. This is like being like archaeology is a scam. Show me the proof of its value.
Yeah, well, it's like didn't we discover the other day that the dinosaur bones are like they're putting them together wrong?
The other day we discovered that?
I don't know.
Where did you read these? Where are you getting this information?
Well, I read all the news that you don't read about, like, when the shark attacks and all of the stuff.
But why aren't you sending me any of this stuff?
Because you don't respond, so I give up.
But I look at it. Well, you want me to write an essay back about the incredible discoveries and new archaeological...
Our form of friendship is not me just like sending you links, you know?
Why not? What?
Because then every time I do, you're like, why'd you send me that weird thing? You're such a weird person.
That's not true.
You're just like, oh, look, a hat, you know?
Rather than just send the link, you could send some context. Like, hey, remember we were having this discussion? And in furthering our friendship, I thought it would be great to have some new context as we chat through this.
Well, I think I heard that some of the dinosaurs got put together wrong. And also they were colorful. And maybe
they were colorful.
Maybe had feathers.
Well, that we've heard.
Yeah.
That they're in the bird phylum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the right word is there, scientifically speaking.
You know, one thing I did like about Lilo and Stitch was the throwaway joke of like, you know, Earth is just like a mosquito rehabilitation project. And then the thing about humans is that an asteroid hits their planet every however many years and they just have to start all over. It's kind of adorable.
You just reminded me of something.
Well, I thought that was at least like slightly funny, but that was the only humor for adults in the whole film.
It wasn't very winky Pixar, this is for adults.
Yeah.
It was definitively a kid's movie. I watched... Well, two wildlife notes to close this episode on.
Great.
One, we watched The Good Dinosaur in our house over the weekend, which I had never seen. That's a Pixar movie.
I don't know what that is.
It's probably the least celebrated of all the Pixar movies.
Okay. There's a baby staring a dinosaur in the eye.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously scientifically inaccurate because humans live contemporaneously to dinosaurs. And in fact, dinosaurs in the film develop our agrarian technologies and they build farms for us, which I don't think that's what really happened. I can't be sure of that, but I don't think that's how we discovered farming.
I mean, once they put the bones out of order, you know, who can
say? I know everything has been completely undermined in my life. And I got to tell you, I thought the movie was quite nice, even though it has a terrible reputation. I thought there was something actually beautiful about it. Just putting that out there. The other thing is we went to the zoo.
Oh, wow.
And I thought of
real holiday weekend vibes.
Oh my God, we did so many holiday things. We went to the bird show. And
I fucking hate that.
The birds, I was thinking of you because the birds are flying at a low angle.
Absolutely
enormous,
not.
California and Andean condors, like right over your head. Like, sure, there are parrots there. They're very cute. You know, there's some like nice, smaller tropical birds. But these condors, which look like ancient villains. I mean, they look like they were designed to destroy our culture. But they were well trained. Nobody got hurt.
I mean, sure, until they aren't.
The show opens with one of them being like let out of almost look like a rucksack or something.
Where's Alice on this?
She was interested. Okay. She was engaged.
She wasn't like freaked out at all.
No, she loves animals. We had a great time.
I know, but the birds, it was wild parrot season, you know, for the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the parrots were just very close to our windows. And I find it really upsetting.
I think they're nice. I'm not really scared of them. But if a giant Andean condor picks my daughter up and carries her off to a magical land, I'm not going to feel the same about this.
I just remembered that this morning while I was getting dressed, I watched a coyote poop in the backyard next door. It thought it was alone.
Are we still taping, Jack?
Hour 22.
It was like really having a moment by itself.
Okay.
And I was just like, well, there's a coyote taking a giant shit in my neighbor's backyard.
We're in the 82nd minute of this episode.
It was funny.
Do you think that this show is actually about your midlife crisis? Like when you really think about it? Because I thought it was about mine, but I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah, and you passed the baton.
Yeah, I think so.
It was wildlife, you know? And I saw
you
him
were
in
moved
his
by
habitat.
this, or you thought it was fun?
I thought it was funny. Because the coyote thought it was having a moment of solitude.
I see.
And I was like, I'm right here, buddy.
No, that's incredibly invasive.
Well, it's, they cut down a lot of trees, so it's the neighbor's fault anyway.
Okay. Coyote's an issue in the neighborhood?
I mean, depending on who you ask, they're just around. It's their home too.
I find they're quite nice.
Yeah, I don't mind them.
Don't bother them; they won't bother you.
Exactly.
That's how I feel about all my takes on this show.
Okay,
if you don't bother them, they won't bother you.
Let's see how you wind this back to the segue.
I just did it. I think I got back.
Good. Okay.
I got us back. Thanks to our producer, Jack Sanders, for his work on this episode.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thanks, Jack, for sitting in this room with us as we went through this. We will be back on Friday. and we're going to be paying tribute to an old friend with a very special episode. Karate Kid Legends off the schedule.
Not doing it.
Replaced by this very special episode. So,
do you think we need to prepare people, or do you think that the people are prepared and we're not?
I'll just say some letters. Those letters are S, H, R, E, and K. We'll see you then.